unplug. Oh, I hit the wrong. Oh, thank you.
It's early.
It is early. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the August 23rd Finance Committee meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Chaplin,
Here.
Member Covert, Member Desart, Member DeCiani, Member Eckhoff, Member Garcia,
Here.
Member Hart, Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante, Member Ozog, Member Potolsky, Member Renahan, Member Rutledge,
Here.
Member Schwarzy, Member Selman, Member Tornatori, and Member Zay.
Hey, we have a quorum. We're moving on to item 3, presentations, and we're going to have our first presentation, the Care Center budget update. Welcome, Janelle.
Good morning. We have some boards here that are going to be discussed during our presentation, and immediately following, we're going to put them in the corridor so you can take a better look. So, today, I'll be sharing with you an update on the DuPage Care Center renovation project. The Care Center was built. Who's doing slides for me? Next slide. The Care Center was built in multiple stages, with the newest portion of the building just exceeding 30 years. The housekeeping and facilities management team have done a tremendous job in keeping the facility clean and safe. However, in 2020, since 2020 and the onset of COVID, this is no longer possible. Each time a staff member, visitor, or resident tests positive, our residents are held to their rooms or their units. They have spent the better part of 2 years held to these spaces. Their home has been greatly impacted by the wear and tear in confined spaces and the repetitive COVID cleaning. As a result, we presented the DPCC upgrade assessment to you, the county board, in October of 21, and to the HHS committee in November of 21, and again this past May. Next slide. Here you can see that the needs of the Care Center align with multiple criteria from under Arpa. I'm going to highlight some key areas. The project necessity key areas would include support for individuals in isolation or quarantine, compliance with public health orders, implementing infection prevention and mitigation strategies. Our current risk for citations and fines under our IDPH, CDC, Health Department, any of those regulatory bodies include F880, which is infection control, 584 resident rights for a safe, clean, comfortable, home-like sanitary environment, and under F921, a physical environment for a safe, functional, sanitary, and comfortable environment. We've had surveyors come into our buildings and identify things like broken tiles in shower rooms, broken cracks in floors, things that interfere with the home-like environment for our residents, and also for infection control. If we get repeat citations, they result in larger fines. They're taking a very heavy hand with infection control since COVID, and they are applying fines to even the smallest of infraction. Next slide. So these slides here represent the worst of the worst, but certainly depict the broken and porous surfaces that are very difficult to clean, and they create an infection control risk and also inhibits the home-like environment. Also on this slide in your bottom right, the key equipment that we use for life safety and mechanical systems are reaching their useful life. The fire system was last upgraded over 20 years ago, and the piping is the original to installation. We are finding that our repairs are no longer an option, and some equipment replacement is needed. Next slide. On the upper right is to the right of that in that picture is the circle drive that is a very nice drop off. However, there's no parking associated with it. So our primary entrance is the upper left picture with the little blue awning. So you can see what everyone sees when they come to the Care Center, whether it's staff, family, residents, visitors, whatnot. Down below that is the lobby, and you can see it's very congested with, we have our reception in there, we have security in there, deliveries come in there. This is where many of our residents who go out for dialysis They come out and they wait for their transportation here. And at any time, we could have 6, 7, 8 people or residents waiting for appointments. You also have staff deliveries. And so during one of our infection control surveys, a surveyor came in and was pointing to everybody. And while she was putting on her booties and saying, I want that name, I want that name, I want that name. And she was saying they weren't social distance. And I had to get a tape measure and come and show that they were legitimately 6 feet apart. So that's how serious they take that. And next, I'm going to introduce Roxanne Knapp from WSP.
Good morning. I'd like to show you a little bit about what we plan to do with the facility. So here you see the resident rooms, and you have to remember that it's been nearly 30 years since some of these rooms have actually been touched, other than being repaired and maintained. What we will be doing is replacing deteriorated finishes with new materials that meet new and current healthcare standards and best practices. We'll be using antimicrobial materials, and we'll be looking for materials that have warranties, some up to 10 years and more. The biggest goal that we want to create here is to create a home-like environment for the residents and the staff. Slide. So this is a view of how we envision the communal space and the nurses station. By consolidating spaces and reevaluating the way that the staff work for themselves and work with the residents, we're able to find space where it already existed. We were able to take down some walls and create a much larger communal environment for the residents and for the staff. Here they can gather for dining, creative events and social events in a safe and socially distanced environment. Next slide. This is how we envision the front lobby. You saw the pictures that Janelle had shown you, and you'll see here we're creating a new first impression for the residents, the staff, and the guests who come to visit. We're creating a warm and welcoming experience for all. And we're allowing functional spaces to occur where they need to. Reception, security, and then we've also created, by taking some of the admin space and relocating it, some waiting spaces that are actually allow for that social distancing. This is the same location. In the lower right, you see actually, if you look at the lower right, that is what you would see walking through the current vestibule. The vestibules will be maintained where they are.
The lobby's always been an issue every time you've gone there, so I'm glad that issue's being addressed. I just want to make sure that it is big enough, because it's so compacted, it's terrible.
Right, we were able to take some of the admin space that is to the right when you walk in the lobby and locate it elsewhere. So we were actually able to capture some of that space for the lobby itself. Next slide. So here we'll see how we're actually looking to redirect traffic. You'll see on the lower right, the blue arrow represents where the natural entry is because of the way it's located right off of County Farm Road. The red arrow represents where it should be and where it currently really is, the front entry. By doing this, we were able to take that courtyard and repurpose it and multi-purpose it. This way we can use it for drop-off space when it's needed for drop-off space, but we can actually then close the gates that we'll be creating to create an outdoor, socially distanced family gathering space for everyone to use. The next slide represents how we envision reimagining the new front door. This is an exciting part of the project, because what we're doing here is creating a new sense of identity for the care center within the community. It is no longer confusing on where to go. It is welcoming and it is inviting. So what it all is about is creating physical spaces that are consistent with the quality of care that the community has come to expect from the services that they receive at the care center.
Good morning, everybody. So this project, we've seen it, we've gone through, we've got the ARPA allocation originally, 22.5 million. What I wanted to do is kind of give an update to the Finance Committee about the cost of that. We have not bid this project out yet, but as we all know, the whole construction industry has been turned upside down over the past year. And so before we put it out to bid, we wanted to go through, we did a revision. We looked at it again based upon current construction pricing out there. Now, the one thing I want to stress is this project has already been approved by committee for 22.5 million. We looked at it based upon the current construction numbers that we're seeing out there, getting in on bids. And we wanted to report to you that it could go as high as 31,500,000. And that is, like I said, it's not a bid right now. It's simply an estimate. And so we wanted to kind of bring the worst case scenario to this committee so that you realize what might come once we start bidding in December. It'll be bid and constructed over the next 2 years. I will say that we're hopeful that maybe the construction industry might work itself out and these numbers would come down. But like I said, we wanted to give you the worst case scenario. So you can see right here that our estimates have gone from the 22.5 million to the 31.5. So how do we pay for this if that's truly the cost of it? Next slide. So as you can see in the first line initial estimate, we had 16.8 million in original ARPA allocation was approved, another 2.9 million in HVAC facilities ARPA allocation. We have a $2 million Ken Moy donation, and then we have 800,000 in CDBG grants, equaling the 22.5. That's still all available. So our recommendation in order to plan for the worst case scenario, the Care Center has been very judicious with their funds that were originally allocated for operation. So they're able to repurpose 2.5 million in already allocated funds. In addition, they have about 520,000 in capital reserves that can be applied toward this project, which leaves a net shortfall of 6 million. Our recommendation is at this point, we earmark 3 million in ARPA money and 3 million out of 22 surplus that we will get much more in depth later today. And if those numbers are not needed, they would come back to the county. So we are not going to increase the scope of the project to, we're hopeful if it comes in at 28 million, then we have 3.5 million that we bring back. So we are not increasing the scope, and that would cover the shortfall. And we would know much more because in December, we're going to be bidding out about 50% of this project for construction next year. So we will have a very good idea in about 2 or 3 months, but at least we're covered for any eventuality. Next slide. Oh,
Just
So
a quick
can we-
question.
oh, I have-
While we're right there.
I know, but I had member Zay and member
Oh,
Selman too
okay,
want questions. So can we hold them till the end if that's okay?
whatever you'd like.
Yeah.
Remember the spot though.
You got it. You got it. We'll all be available for questions. So what are we up against in this project? We talked about, obviously, and I just heard it earlier this morning, supply chain and construction industry having a big impact. That's what's driving a lot of our increases in the construction industry, and it will continue to impact this. We have escalation inflation in construction industry, labor shortages and labor rate increases, unknown existing conditions. Some of the buildings we're touching over at the Care Center were built in the 1800s. And so once we start in there, no telling what we're going to find, and we'll have to react accordingly. Obviously, we have the Care Center's primary purpose is to take care of the residents that live there. They've been managing, obviously, the current pandemic. You know, what's going to happen? Will it flare back up? Will there be something else? And no matter what, that will take precedent over everything we're doing for construction. And obviously, you know, the ARPA deadlines. We have the 2024, we have to be under contract. 26, we have to have everything expended. So given all of those, we've developed a preliminary project schedule to let you know where we're going to move forward. So the 27th, September 27th, if we have approval today, concurrence of moving forward, we anticipate board approval for the contract. We are going to start bidding then October, mobilizing December, and we're starting construction at the first part of 23. We expect the entire north building to be completed in early 24 and the entire east building to be completed in the summer of 24, with the entire project being completed in the spring of 25. And a couple of things I want to reiterate. First and foremost, this project will touch every single resident room. So it's a very ambitious scope, and timing wise right now with the census of the residents, we can do entire floors at a time. And that's extremely important because we have less impact on the residents. So the timing is kind of now to move forward with this project. So with this, I'm going to turn it back over to Janelle.
So why is this project so important? It will enhance the quality of life and environment for our residents. It will improve the public image of a government-owned facility. It will instill a greater sense of pride for our employees and recruitment. It will increase admissions by being competitive with our neighboring facilities. It will ensure sustainability of the care center for decades to come. And most importantly, it will provide a high-quality, clean, safe home for the most underserved population in DuPage County and beyond. So why now? The ARPA funding is available till 2026. Reduce fines related to infection control and inadequate social distancing. Avoid costly repairs of end-of-life, useful life equipment and materials. Attract more private pay Medicare residents, thus increasing revenues. Current lower census due to COVID more easily provides for the transfer of residents during construction. And the increased HFS Medicaid rate through Medicaid rate reform results in increased revenue going forward. That's it.
You so,
Questions?
yeah, we'll open up to questions. Member Zay had a question, Member Selman, Member Desart, Member DeCiani, Member Pajewski, and Member Rutledge. So Member Zay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, Nick, 9 million increase is a huge increase. Okay, and understand, and this is, I think we need to prioritize projects. Okay, if we see these huge increases on every ARPA contract we have, we're gonna run out of money, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we gotta start prioritizing contracts, our projects here at the county and look at that. Because if everything's going up that much, we only have so much surplus money. I mean, we'll talk about this afternoon. But again, when do we start making a list of the low hanging fruit of projects that we might have to cut at some point? I mean, you're just talking about this. We haven't even talked about the courthouse yet, all the other projects we have going. If everything else increases this much, obviously that cushion we had is going to disappear quickly. So, I mean, if we started actually taking a look at some of the projects we might need to cut, I mean, this wouldn't be one of them. There might be other projects we need to do. I mean, obviously this is a priority. This needs to be done. But I mean, are we looking at, I mean, I know we put 10 million into contingencies, but that will disappear quickly if every project we have has huge increases on it, or we just can't do as much and we have to cut back.
No, and we've definitely looked at it and we talked about this project. Do we cut scope? What do we do with this project? But you're absolutely right. The courthouse, we were lucky enough, a lot of it was bid out before a lot of the big increases, but we are very cautious moving forward on the projects. A lot of those projects, you can effectively reduce scope on them and still achieve, 70-80% of the intended benefits. But every project, we are looking at that issue, and it will be, and some of the projects we can delay till maybe the construction issues work themselves out. This is one of those projects that we can't because it's a multi-year project. This is our biggest flagship project we have. But your point is well taken. I mean, if these type of increases are seen across our ARPA projects, there's no way we're doing it, and we're gonna have to revisit them. And we can't come to you and say we need a 50% increase. There's no way ARPA can support that. So as we're looking at each one, we're looking at the budget. We'll come back, reduce scope, but it's a finite amount of money that we have to spend. Absolutely.
And one for Janelle. Janelle, a great project, but how are you going to work this? You've done a great job during COVID and all that. How are you going to work construction, moving the residents around?
So because our ability to accept admissions has been very limited, every time we go under a quarantine, we've not been able to accept new admissions because we create our COVID unit where we would put our short stay or new admissions. So we essentially have that capability now. In fact, we're already moving residents off of 4 North for this potential intended purpose, and also to help with putting our residents more closely together, and that helps with
So you have a
staffing.
plan how to move everybody.
We do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, it's already underway.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Selman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we had this slide up with the 2 different amounts and then where the extra dollars might come from, one of the lines, well, first of all, congratulations on still having $2.5 million of CARES Act. That blows my mind, especially for the operation you're running. But there was a $520,000 that we're going to take out of, last one, I think.
Next slide.
Yep, out of their capital reserve funds. I'm just wondering, how much do you have in capital reserves, and are you feeling comfortable with that large amount
So
being
the
allocated
return
out?
reserve, it's actually our annual allocation. So we have not, you were estimating, we still have more than that there, but we're estimating what we'll need between now and the end of fiscal year. So we feel comfortable with allocating 520,000 towards. the
So that
project.
amount's an annual amount. It's not
Yes,
like. out
and
of-
then
Ah,
next year's
perfect.
capital starts all over with a different budget, which has already been presented.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Selman. I asked the same question when I listened to the presentation. Member Dessert. Oh, thank you. Member Krajewski.
A couple of real quick ones. What are we funding with the general fund for just normal operations? It's about 3 million.
It used to be 3, but we decreased it to 2.
Or you go back to that slide, it was just up there. And then I know we have 800K of CDBG grant money. And that's an allocation that comes out every year. Is there ability to get the 23 and 24 portions of that? Just for the fact that this construction thing is going to take a few years. Maybe you could.
I believe that's, you see the FY 24, the FY 25 allocation, the FY 23 is committed. We're doing windows and we're doing HVAC in both the south and the north end. Most projects are already underway. We're actually awarded the south end. The north end, you're gonna be awarding the design.
So you've
for that
already
next month.
projected to use the CBG
Those are
money
correct.
for
Correct.
20, for 23, but
We had a 3-year allocation, correct, that we received in we received a 3-year allocation. This is the last year of that 800,000.
okay, well, that's what I'm saying, but since this thing's gonna be constructed over the next few years, can we get any allocation for, because it's 20?
The next allocation is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's 2 years out.
Okay, well, we're supposed to build. this,
Correct.
Okay. And then the third question is too, I saw the Ken Moy donation of 2 million, and I know we have a foundation that raises money over there, similar to what we've done with animal services. Maybe looking at doing a public-private where we ask for potential donations to help fund the facility. I just say a thought, donations, anything you raise from the private sector,
Right.
like the Ken Moy donation is just extra money that we don't put in that we can use somewhere else.
Right. And we do utilize those types of projects for like vital machines. Those are wheeled vital monitor machines. And so we get those like multiple for a unit. We just are looking at some specialty bathing devices, but that would require, what you're talking is a major capital campaign, and it would probably take some time to get underway, but we can, we could pursue that. I'm not sure what the climate is like for that at this point.
Yeah,
But
and I say, talk to the people at Hamilton, everything, they put it
Yeah.
together, and we're starting that
Yep.
now, but thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. I have Member DeCiani.
Yes, thank you. And Janelle, sorry for your loss of Clement. Thank for our loss. She was a great asset to our care center. My question is regarding the extra level that we have that's kind of unoccupied right now. Is there any opportunity we have there to recapture that space while we're doing this and possibly do that floor?
Right.
And move folks upstairs versus, and then potentially have an extra level, more capacity, or maybe even a floor for severe and profound people, which often currently in Illinois and in DuPage County are forced out of state. So I'm just trying to think of ways we could utilize that space
right.
while we're doing this. Just asking.
We actually did take a look at that, and Roxanne might be able to talk the numbers, but essentially we'd have to do all the plumbing, all the electric, everything for the whole entire structure, which I think initially just to touch it was 2.5 million, and then $1.7 million per floor. So it was pretty costly.
Okay. Thank you, Member DeCiani. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Member Rutledge. I had it right there.
Pardon me, thank you, Chair. My question was pretty much the same as Pete. So that unused portion of that building is going to stay in its current state.
At this point in time, yes. So it's used as storage, which for right now with COVID supplies has been very beneficial, but yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So if there's no other questions, so what I need to get from the committee is direction as to whether we want to use the 3 million in ARPA and then the 3 million 2022 surplus towards this project. So do I have consensus? Can we give consensus for them to move forward with that? Yes, 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 yes. I believe you have your consensus. So thank you so much for the presentation. It's a great project and appreciate everybody's work on that. Next on our agenda, we have the Choose DuPage ARPA request. Morning, Greg.
Greg Bedla from DuPage. I'm here this morning for a ARPA request for the Chicagoland Economic Development Partnership surrounding business retention and recovery campaign. I was in front of you all, you may recall, about a year and a half ago. This initiative that I'm speaking to you about today was born out of the Chicagoland Economic Recovery Task Force, which was a task force that was convened by Mayor Lightfoot, Cook County Board Chair President Preckwinkle, and Dan Cronin, who co-chaired the task force, in an effort to stimulate economic recovery across the region, post-pandemic and beyond. So today, the Economic Development Partnership strives to achieve, you have a presentation, but I'd rather just kind of give you an overview of what this is all about. This is the city of Chicago working in conjunction with Cook County, DuPage County, Kane, Lake, Will, Kendall, McHenry, I'm probably forgetting one other, but basically all of Northeastern Illinois in an effort to form a regional economic development initiative and alliance to go places from an economic development perspective that DuPage on its own cannot achieve or does not have the resources to achieve. Our primary focus, as this slide talks about, is to promote and support the industries and the sectors that were harmed most directly by the pandemic. So we would focus on things like manufacturing and the commercial office space. This group was convened by CMAP. I want to be clear on this. This initiative is a self-governing initiative. There will be no oversight by CMAP or anybody else. CMAP simply convened the group together to talk about objectives and what we should focus on, what the organization would look like. The governance of the group would be strictly the economic development leaders from each of the participating counties, as well as the city of Chicago, along with a business representative from each county who has a strong presence, not only in the county that they're representing, but a county that they also do business in. So for instance, a DuPage County-based business who also has a strong presence in Lake County. Our objective, of course, is to promote commercial and industrial real estate opportunities, strengthen the business and retention efforts through things like foreign direct investment, international trade shows, and just outreach that DuPage in its current bandwidth does not currently enjoy. I should mention that during the task force meetings, which have been going on for quite some time, one of the comments that was made was Brookings Institute was engaged to do an analysis of the economic recovery of the Chicagoland region versus our competitive set, Boston, Denver, Phoenix, and the like. And the recovery post-pandemic for the Chicagoland market has been trailing, CMAP's words, as Chicagoland is punching below its weight from an economic recovery standpoint. One of the primary reasons noted by Brookings because of that, well, there's two primary reasons, is there is no true regional focus. There is no true brand identity. To our north, we have a group called the Milwaukee Seven. St. Louis has the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. Denver has the Greater Denver Economic Development Organization. Phoenix has GPEC. Houston has the Houston Economic Development Partnership. These are all organizations where a DuPage, if you will, exists. A World Business Chicago exists, but there is also an overlay that markets, promotes, and invests in the entire region to develop a strategy and a goal and a brand across the entire region. I'm sure some of you are thinking, and I wouldn't blame you, why now? And you know, what safeguards are in place to prevent Chicago or Cook County from continuing to poach businesses from DuPage County? This plan contemplates codified agreements between all participating parties for full disclosure on activities that take place within the counties and the cities that are participating. So this will be more of a information sharing initiative. This will be more of an opportunity sharing initiative for all of the counties and the cities that are participating. The other comment that was noted by Brookings is that the Chicagoland market does exist in silos, that typically economic development efforts are focused on individual geographies as opposed to promoting the brand and the brand across the entire region. So this strategy and this initiative contemplates creating a Northeastern Illinois marketing strategy. And if you want to kind of go to the next slide here, a marketing brand to hit business decision makers, site selectors, and real estate professionals, again, because it is ARPA eligible, it would be focused on disproportionately impacted industries such as commercial, office, manufacturing, food, and more. You can continue to the next slide, please. So our approach, obviously, this is kind of what Choose DuPage does already, specifically for DuPage County. We would continue to do this, but now the reach would expand to utilize existing business attraction campaigns via creative campaign. Next slide, please. We would, of course, have a marketing strategy, which would focus on content, advertising, and promotion and outreach. And I'd really like you all to think of this as global in its approach as opposed to national in its approach. Next slide, please. Our content marketing, of course, would include all types of media, including social and the like. Next slide, please. Advertising and promotion. Again, you've seen this. I just wanted to touch on, these are things that this group would now do in conjunction with Will County, in conjunction with Kane County, in conjunction with Kendall, in conjunction with the city of Chicago. Next slide, please. We really need strategies to connect these industry leaders in the disproportionately impacted industries, better collaboration amongst all of the economic development organizations, and strengthen our research and marketing efforts on things like foreign direct investments within these sectors. Next slide, please. Naturally, I think this is important. So the social media measurement of success is pretty simple. Website hits, clicks, and conversions, and the like. Next slide, please. But the measurements that we would all report back to you on this group, much like we do with Choose DuPage, would be across the region. What is our absorption of commercial real estate? How many new projects have we landed? What is the increased outreach that we're doing? What are the trade shows that we're participating in, and how many leads are we coming back with, and how many of those leads are we bringing to fruition and to closure? And this group has committed to report not only, so if you think of the group as a separate initiative, that group would report to Choose DuPage, but that group would also report to the county board, either via Choose DuPage or as an entity itself on an annual basis. I am asking for a 3-year allocation, but like all things with Choose DuPage, if it's not working, I would hope that at this point you would all know that I wouldn't ask you to come to me and kill it, because I would come to you and say it's not working and we should move in a different direction. We do not anticipate that, but we think that a 3-year window to spin this organization up and make it effective is going to be critical for its success. Next slide, please. So again, there's the counties that are listed. It is designed to develop and promote a regional economic development strategy focused on, the disproportionately impacted industries, to include things like foreign direct investment, export assistance, and the like. Next slide, please. So we are requesting $750,000 over the next 3 years. Our contribution to this is based on the population of DuPage County, as well as the gross domestic product and the economic output of DuPage County. So every county and every city and everybody who participates will have a stake proportionate to their population, their GDP, and their economic output. So naturally, it would follow that DuPage as a county would be second to Cook and the city of Chicago. But our contribution is a not to exceed amount, because quite honestly, CMAP is convening the County Council of Chairs on September 23rd, because the other counties have to sign off on this as well for this to be successful. So there is a little bit of a chicken and the egg, and Nick and I talked about this, that I'm happy to present this to you. This initiative is very exciting to all of the county board chairs. It's very exciting to City of Chicago, President Preckwinkle, Mayor Lightfoot. But what we're doing here is basically allocating or earmarking the maximum amount that DuPage County would be investing. Another initiative that came out of this, and I'm sorry, it just happened in the last 2 days, so I didn't have time to include it in this presentation, is 1871, which is the 600-pound gorilla of tech incubators located in the Merchandise Mart in the city of Chicago, has offered to be and to this initiative. So they would offer, we have Innovation DuPage in DuPage County. 1871 would offer their services to Innovation DuPage members, and 1871 would offer their expertise to the team at Innovation DuPage to spin up another Innovation DuPage or offer the members of Innovation DuPage the opportunity to network and utilize the services associated with 1871. That's fantastic news, in my opinion, primarily because Innovation DuPage, we have M88, which is another tech hub located in Naperville along I-88. But for the most part, throughout the Collier counties, there are no business startups. There are no business incubators other than those that are located within community colleges or four-year institutions. And this would be a great impetus to continue to foster technology, tech incubators, and startup initiatives. So I think I covered everything. Again, this initiative started about 2 years ago as the pandemic was heightening. It was born out of the Economic Recovery Task Force, and it is the absolute first time in my experience in economic development that all parties have come to the table and have been willing to sign agreements that say, we're not going to come to DuPage County and poach your business. We're going to work, and I'm not going to go to Chicago and poach their business. We're going to work on organic growth, and we're going to work on investment from outside the region as part of this initiative. Choose DuPage will still do its job. If a business in Chicago wants to come here, we will certainly work with that business to help them relocate here. But this initiative is designed to go beyond the boundaries and beyond the borders. I guess with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have, okay, I see Member Zay, Member Hart, and Member Ozak. Member Zay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Greg, a couple of things. I'm just concerned, that's just Chicagoland, or is there the name? Could it be Greater Chicagoland? Could it be something that just seems to put that stigma on Chicago? And there's a lot of, obviously, counties around there. Is that negotiable?
It is absolutely negotiable, and it is not. It was a name that we all kind of came up with. Again, the county board chairs are meeting on September 23rd to kind of give their final stamp of approval to this, assuming that the county boards all approve it. The county board chairs would bring the initiative forward, and then things like the actual name of the organization would be crafted.
Well, that's my concern. There's a little more oversight by this county board. You said this came out of a task force, economic recovery task force that started 2 years ago. And this is the first time I've ever heard about it today. So we're kind of in the dark on this. So I think there needs to be some more oversight. You did say, 750,000 for a startup, and that's great. But, I think we got to make sure, like you said, that there's an out of this. If we're in this for a year and we're getting nothing out of it, we should be able to pull the plug on at that point and get out, because it just wouldn't make any sense for us to continue to dump money into something that we're not getting any growth out of. And obviously you can tell us what the benchmarks are, but again, I mean, is there an out after a year, after 30 days? Is it a regular boilerplate we have, or are we committed for 3 years and 250,000 a year?
Short answer, however the county board wants to work that. My recommendation, I would certainly think if we're spinning up a new entity or spinning up a new business, it's hard to develop a business plan with a 1-year allocation. However, you'll get no argument from me, Member Zay, that after 6 months, if it's not working, that we figure out a strategy to unwind. So I'd be fine with a 1-year commitment with the agreement that if it's working, we're going to continue to fund it.
Okay, and anywhere in this agreement that the chairman are signing, is there something that says they have to come and give an annual report to the county board?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Not only to the county board, but to the board of directors of Choose DuPage, the board of directors of World Business Chicago, the board of directors of the Will County Center for Economic Development, and all of their associated governmental boards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Hart.
Yes, thank you, Member Chaplin. Greg, I'm very excited about this initiative. I do have a quick question on the 750K. How is that broken down in terms of where it's going to be spent? Is it entirely on marketing for the region, or is it mostly starting with the organization?
No, I would think I could get you a very detailed allocation of the breakdown, but about 60% of it would be to service contractors who would provide leads, who would provide trade show participation, who would provide outreach opportunities. So the majority of it would be for the generation of the opportunities for foreign direct investment and the goals and the objectives that the group is trying to achieve. The marketing budget is currently set at about 20%. There's a very small, one of the great things that I like about this is all of the participating economic development organizations have agreed that the staff time would be kind of internal We're not going to go out and hire a CEO for this organization. It's going to be this group working together with service contractors to determine the best route forward. So about 60% for service contractors, 20% for marketing, and then the rest would be kind of ancillary stuff.
Okay, and then just in terms of the governance of this entity, you mentioned it's the economic development leads for each of the participating counties in the city. The business reps on that committee, how are they selected? Do you know?
So I guess I should provide a little more clarity. It would be the leader of the proposal is that the governance model that's currently being proposed by the group is it would be the leader of the associated economic development organization or an appointee by the county board or the county board chair. So if Chairman Cronin wants, or whoever the chairman is, wants me to represent the group, then I would represent the group. But if the county board or the county board chairman feels the group would be better represented by a county board member, it would be at the discretion of that county board. And then the business person who would participate would typically be somebody, to be blunt, who would probably, in all likelihood, be from the current Choose DuPage board. But that person would have to have a physical presence in another county other than DuPage. Because again, the whole point of this is these businesses are thinking outside just the boundaries of DuPage. We're thinking about Berlin, Germany, and we're thinking about Tokyo, Japan, and we're thinking about what it means for that foreign direct investment to come into the region and how that would not only help DuPage, but would potentially help Will Cook and everybody else. Okay. But again, Member Hart, a little bit of a chicken and the egg here because the final details haven't been codified because the county board chairs haven't met. That meeting is September 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Hart. Member Ozak?
I've read a little bit about the 1871 group that you mentioned.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you, when were they founded and what role, can you explain a little bit for me what
So
their
the
role
best way
would
to
be?
think of 1871 is they founded about 8 years ago. And they are an incubator for startups. A bit of a misnomer is most people think they're primarily tech startups, but they are for any startup business, whether it's manufacturing or tech, that is at a given stage in their evolution that is either looking for seed funding or primarily second round funding to grow and develop into a more mature company. And they're headquartered in the Merchandise Mart. They have hundreds of members and a network of expertise that, quite frankly, I actually was involved with 1871 and trying to get the original founders of 1871 to give us their playbook so that we could duplicate it in DuPage County. They were a little reluctant to do that, so we kind of worked to try to get as much of the information as we could, and Innovation DuPage was born out of that.
So having them on board is important in terms
I
of
believe it's an enormous opportunity
for them to share their methodology, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay,
And
thank you.
for them to, this would not be an Innovation DuPage member. Innovation DuPage in Glen Ellen is a wonderful tech incubator startup affiliated with the College of DuPage. It was actually born out of Choose DuPage as Rev 3, and we transitioned it over to COD because they were better suited to take care of it. Every Innovation DuPage member under what's currently being contemplated would have the ability to access the 1871 network and vice versa, which they don't currently enjoy. And when you're a startup company, networking and access to that expertise and that business acumen is absolutely critical. So when 1871 came to the table, you know, and many of the participating counties, McHenry County, to my knowledge, doesn't have an incubator. So it'd be an opportunity for McHenry and quite frankly, DuPage to talk to 1871 and say, should we have 4 of these? Should there be one in Addison? Should there be another one in Naperville? And if so, what should they look like? And how do you get it started?
Has 1871 been a Chicago focused group or are they already working in somewhat more regionally?
They don't have a geofence around in terms of who can participate in 1871 offerings. But as you can imagine, many startups who you typically see working out of their basement or working out of the local coffee shop, going into the city to take advantage of 1871's offerings can be burdensome from a time perspective.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Member Ozak. I have Member Renahan and then Member Dessert.
Thanks, Greg, for the presentation. We're going to be voting on this today, but we don't have a contract yet. Is that, I'm just trying to follow a timeline.
Yeah, as I mentioned, from a timing perspective, That's why this amount, as always with Choose DuPage, is a not to exceed amount. There have been discussions. Brookings is the consulting group that is leading this initiative and working with CMAP and all of the leaders of the collar counties. And they have a pro forma in place, if you will, that says, okay, Will, if you're in, this is your figure, and DuPage, if you're in, this is your figure. But that meeting just hasn't taken place yet. And in an effort to kind of get in front of you all and make sure, because I know this is kind of the ARPA meeting, I just thought this would be an appropriate time. But the short answer is yes, there is no formal agreement between all of the participating counties at this point in time.
Okay, it just seems a little cart before the horse for me. And I think we do need to do stuff when it comes to economic development, but at the same time, as Member Zay had said earlier, it's like we've got a long list of things, a lot of competing interests, and but moving on, I do like the way you're measuring success here, and not in clicks, but in projects. But how you delineate between DuPage County? I mean, you've always been choose DuPage.
Sure.
Now it's going to be choose one of us.
Well, one of the things that we've never been able to, quite frankly, afford at Choose DuPage is economic impact software to do an analysis of when a business moves to Chicago, when a business moves to Will County, what is that economic impact for DuPage County in terms of real estate, in terms of economic multipliers? Part of this initiative is that that information will now be generated and shared amongst the group. So short of monitoring this many jobs, this big of investment, which we do, and it's on our website for all DuPage County, there is no indication of, we also report on how many projects did Cook County have, but what we don't report on is what does that mean for DuPage County and how can we work? You know, the example that I use, remember Renahan, when kind of discussing this, is when Amazon was doing HQ2. A DuPage County municipality happened to submit for their headquarters, as did the city of Chicago. And I stood there and said, this is ridiculous. We should be submitting as a region, because New York submitted as a region, Washington, DC submitted as a region. And we can argue that there was many reasons why they went where they went, but one of the reasons is they worked as a region. And that's what this initiative is trying to achieve.
So we've been doing it wrong all these years?
No, we
Greg? Is
haven't.
that what
No,
you're
no,
telling
no.
us?
No, I want to be clear on that because I kind of had a feeling that you may think that we haven't been doing anything wrong. We've been flourishing in DuPage County. You know, CMAP says we're punching below our weight as a region. Well, not in DuPage County, we're not. But as Member Pachowski mentioned last time I was up here, I think this is a way to elevate economic development activity in DuPage County by working collaboratively on things like foreign direct investment, international outreach, things that we've never been able to do before. And if we have to do it as a region, and then everybody kind of fight over, hey, we got somebody in Berlin interested in Northeastern Illinois. Now DuPage go after it, and now we'll go after it. That's what this is intending to do. So it's an and proposition and a growth proposition.
Okay, yeah, just questions have to be asked. I think that, you know, the investment's moderate, really, over 3 years.
Right.
I just wish we'd been able to see the contract and perhaps been more involved in the process.
I can get as much information to Nick as quickly as I get it from the group, and he can share it with you. If I had more to share with you, I would share it with you. And again, if I may, 90 miles to our north, the Milwaukee 7. There's a choose, if you will, to use the choose DuPage vernacular. There's a choose Milwaukee, there's a choose Waukesha County, there's a choose Wauwatosa. But then there's this other group that is comprised of all of those folks that are promoting that region. And that's kind of, we're not reinventing the wheel here. They do it in Houston, they do it in Phoenix, they do it in Denver, they do it in Boston, they do it in San Diego, all over the country. We're not doing it here.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Renahan. Member Dessert?
Thank you, Greg, for your presentation. Really appreciate it. My question is, for DuPage County to be part of this Northern Illinois Alliance, you're telling us it's going to cost $750,000. Where did that figure come from? Are each of the counties in the city, or each of the entities involved paying $750,000, or is it by capita? Like Cook County is the #1 county, we're #2. Kane might pay less than us. How did that figure come about? Thank you.
Thank you. So it's $750 over 3 years, to be clear. So it's $250 a year, and it is based on population, GDP, and economic output. And the dollar amount, the total dollar amount, was based on the group came together and said, here's the services that we need. Here's what these groups do. So here's the budget that it takes for this to be successful. And then because of, as you can imagine, everybody being protective of their own turf, because this is still kind of new to everybody, Brookings came in because we had to use an independent third party. And Brookings came in and said the best and fairest way to do it is base it on population, economic output, and GDP. And depending on how you classify Chicago with Cook County, without Cook County, DuPage County would rank second or third in terms of its financial contribution and its GDP/economic output.
And what is the total amount that they came up with?
The total budget is, can I get back to you with the exact number on that? I want to say it's somewhere, because some of the smaller counties have yet to have this type of meeting, and those meetings are taking place in some of our neighboring counties this week and next. But I believe the total annual budget is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3, 1.4 million. So we would be, I think, the answer to your question, maybe the answer to your question, we would be somewhere around 15 to 20% of the budget.
So the total budget would be then 3 to 4 million.
Over a
the
3-year
years.
period. Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Dessert. I have Member DeCiani and then Member Rutledge.
I think it's exciting for our region. I think, I would assume CMAP is being the leader on this, is putting some dollars toward this as well, correct?
Well, so CMAP acted as the convening organization for the group.
Mhm.
And when the group first got together very informally, the group said, we can't lead this ourselves because it's all going to be a bunch of economic development leaders sitting around a room saying Chicago's just going to steal our business, and Chicago's going to say, well, you're just going to steal our business because of the challenges we have. So we went to CMAP. CMAP went to the EDA, the Economic Development Agency on the federal level, and procured grant funding to hire Brookings and a company called Tip Strategies to convene the group on a regular basis and do the math, if you will, and provide the consulting services to create the entity. Once the entity is created, all CMAP may do
Mhm.
is provide meeting space or make sure that everybody is adhering by the rules.
Yeah.
So this is not a planning group. This is an economic development group designed to grow the economy. But yes, they kicked in some dough originally to get us started.
CMAP just, I'm sure people realize this, but CMAP's been very good to DuPage. A lot of our federal dollars have come through the CMAP. We've got a lot of our railroad train stations being rebuilt with CMAP money. So I think it's a good thing. And, Chicago, like it or not, it's a key entity that we need to work with as the second largest county in the state of Illinois. So I think it's important that we participate in this. And if we see it's not going the right way, then we pull it. And Greg, you're a good steward. So.
And since this
We trust you.
initiative has just kicked off,
Mhm.
not even formalized, DuPage County and the city of Chicago have done a deal together. DuPage County and Will County have done a deal together. And that's something that we've really, to be blunt, never really done before. And it's been a win across county lines and across jurisdictions.
To be able to tap an 1871 is a pretty nice.
It's enormous.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Member DeCiani. Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. Thanks for the presentation, Greg. I'm always going to be a supporter of marketing because if we can get our message out there, how will people know what we're doing? So I do support this initiative. My question is about the County Board Chair meeting, September 25th. We won't have our current chair for much longer. Will those candidates be invited to participate or at least here in that meeting? What the plan is for DuPage?
Not currently contemplated. I don't control the guest list. So I'm on the guest list. I don't get to set the guest list. I can certainly, as you can probably imagine, I've been pretty vocal with this group. Quite frankly, I've been trying to motivate everybody else to get going on this because we've been talking about this for 2 years now and we need to get moving on it. But I don't think that that's currently contemplated.
Well, I just think that if they're going to be the ones to carry this forward, that they should at least.
Yeah, and I don't, I may have
What
said
the
that-
plan is.
When is do you know when the meeting of the county chairs is, Cheryl? I thought it was the 23rd.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of transitions that the that the new chair is going to take over responsibilities that Lattice isn't right now, that they don't have it is big, but I think whoever's the chair, I think they'll acclimate.
And I certainly don't mean to
Yeah.
imply that it's kind of a foregone conclusion because the county board chairs are doing this, because obviously this is a county-led initiative, but every piece of information I'm getting from the folks who are convening this are saying, mark your calendar for September 23rd for this big announcement. And I'm telling everybody, I haven't even gotten DuPage County Board to approve this yet. So we might want to make sure that we're progressing in a logical fashion here. Not getting ahead of ourselves, to Member Renahan's point.
Thank you, Member Rutledge. Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Greg, for this presentation. I really appreciate it. I do love the conversation about economic development, and you have to take action in order to drive economic development. I agree with you that I like that phrase. We are punching below our weight in a few ways in DuPage County. And that's not a slight. It just means, to me, I hear it, and the way I think about it is we have limitless potential that has just not been fully tapped into yet. I support this initiative greatly because I really am behind trying new and innovative approaches to drive economic development and bring business and tourism and people and money and companies and tech to DuPage County. And so this is a great way to do that. Thank you for getting this rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Okay, next on our agenda is the presentation from the clerk's office. With leave of the body, I'm going to be pulling this item, and the clerk will be coming on September 13th with 2 budgets to present before the committee. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, the ARPA presentation. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. We just did ARPA, now we're doing ARPA again. Sorry, okay. Thanks, Mary Catherine.
Okay. Slideshow number 3. I have promised this team right here that I'm not going to talk on, and Jennifer said she was going to put me on a timer. So I'll try to be brief, and with that in mind, I want to take the questions at the end. This presentation today, it's really, it says updates. It says here on the slide that it starts with updates, but the focus of it's going to be new requests. I do have some updates at the beginning we'll walk through, but in general, I have a handful, a relatively large number, $11 million worth of new requests that I want to put before the board. And one of the things that was said earlier in the meeting, Member Zay was talking about, we don't have an endless amount of money left for the program and we need to prioritize. So I'm hoping to get, even though we work as a team on all the ARPA issues, I'm really looking for the members to help, to set the priorities. This is your program and your priorities. So when we get near the end of the presentation, I have a recap and questions as item number 4 and 5 on this agenda, but that's really going to be where we have, I think, that conversation of what you think should be in and what should be out. So with that said, a few things about the first slide. Yeah, the slide updates. We have been very, very busy over the last month and a half. We got the fire and park districts sort of out the door. We're waiting for a few IGAs, but those are largely ready to go. And we're hoping to get the fire and special park districts payments out in September. Water connection assistance program. We did a lot of work. I've been working closely, and our team's been working closely with public works staff on this. We set up I think a good web page with a lot of explanation about how the program is going to run. The IT team has also been instrumental in getting the application up and running. So that's good to go really starting today. One thing that you'll notice on your agenda is that there's the appropriation for FY22. Really, this item has already been approved by the board. It's gone through a couple different committees. This is just kind of cleaning it up to make it official and changing the FY22 budget so we can pay it in 22. So it's not really a new item, but it is on the agenda, the Finance Committee agenda for later. performance measure tracking, we have been working, I think you might know from earlier budget discussions, we've been working with a new vendor called OpenGov to help us improve our overall budget work, but also in particular, we're going to be using OpenGov for ARPA performance tracking. That is also slated for September, so we'll keep you posted on that. And then reporting. Reporting has been crazy for us in the last probably a month and a half. We've had reporting for our ARPA quarterly reporting. We've had reporting for ARPA annual reporting. In total, the ARPA reporting requirements, it was 155 pages that we did. So special thanks to my team, Katrina, Gerald, and we have a new employee, Keith Jorstad, working with us. So we got a large volume of work out the door. We also at the same time are working, with the county's budget staff to re-baseline all of the budgets and look and see where we are at this point. So one of the things that I'm hoping to do and have sort of tentatively proposed to this group is we want to change up our placemat reporting to make it a bit more detailed. The details in particular are, in the past, we've sort of done a lot of reporting by big category, but as we have new projects, we want to track them. And this is not just for transparency on your ends, but also for me, because with a large number of capital projects, I really need to be looking at them every month. I want you to be looking at them every month and just be looking at the spending too. To date, what we've sent out has been just, hey, here's what the budget is. But now we're focused in on the date because the end of this program is not super far away. We don't want to leave any money on the table. And so we want to know exactly where we are at any given point in time with any project. So the new format, I know I emailed you all last night with a new document. I'm open to whatever you guys want to see. If you want to see something a lot more general, that's fine. But for my purposes, I'm recommending something a little bit more detailed and by individual project. All right, next slide. This is a very long slide. It's really came from the treasurer's office. And for those of you that looked through the packet last night, you got a chance to look at it. I'm going to say a few general things about interest income and ARPA. When we did the ARPA budget last year, we forecasted the interest income to be $260,000, almost nothing. And so when we came back this year and looked at it again, we still, based on our actuals to date in the finance department, we're forecasting a pretty nominal amount. The interest income, I will say, it can be spent on anything. So, so we're looking at this for the broader county purposes, not just our purposes. When we talk to the treasurer's office staff about this, they explained that the county has made some significant changes to how we're doing business. And I want to say it's not just the county. One thing the county has done has hired a new financial advisor, PFM, and you can look at the details on some of the slides, but they have invested, they plan to invest the money, and we have, as a result of that, a much higher number that we're coming up with. Now we've changed the cash flow around a little bit. Right now, the cash flow is backloaded because the program, right now we have about $27 million that's unallocated in terms of the ARPA ballots. That's all backloaded in FY 25 and 26. But currently the treasurer, the treasurer's forecasts are a bit more aggressive than what we would want, but they're estimating $5.8 million in interest income through the ends of the program. So I'm leading with this item. It's good news. It's great news for us. And it's a little bit to be determined. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but we can take some questions. I know Ellen is on the call. Ellen Smith from the treasurer's office is on the call. So we can take some questions at the end. But also I encourage you to go back and look at some of the details on the slide to give you more background. Next slide. I mentioned at the beginning that to date on the placemat, we've really been focused in, let's go, yeah, see right there, thanks. That we've been focused in on just the budget side and not the expenditure side. So I have two slides here that show where we are in terms of the expenditures to date. We've spent $43.5 million. You can see the categories where the spending is. One of the things that's been, the construction projects are really in water and sewer and campus projects. That's where you're seeing the big construction projects. As we mobilize, those projects are a little bit slower to spend, which is anticipated to some extent. But these numbers are through the end of June. So I know, for example, that they don't reflect the last 2 months. And in public works, the projects they're doing at Woodridge has spent a fair amount more than this. And that's one of the projects you'll see if you looked at the budget transfers today, that project is up and running. So, we're mobilizing. These numbers will change. We could look at the next slide. Overall, the story about where we've been and where we're going is that we made the initial investments for in response to COVID. And that's the way the Arpa Act was set up. That's what it was intended to do. Hey, what are your, last year, what are your biggest COVID problems? So if you look at it by department, we've spent, of the $43 million, we've spent money at the health department. We spent money on small businesses, and we spent money on community services. So that's no surprise to this group. But what we're doing going forward is, more focused on recovery, and that's going to include our construction projects. Next slide. I have today in front of you, to use the words of one of the members here, I think, sort of cafeteria style smorgasbord of projects that I want you to look at. Some of them we've already talked about this morning, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on. Others are a bit new. So like I said, I want to leave the questions till the end, but in total, these are $11 million in net increases. We do have a few places where we've had projects they went through, they didn't cost the entire amount, so there are offsets. I know we were talking about money at the care center earlier today. Actually, let's do the next slide. So the top of the slide shows where we have the offsets. We got $3.5 million in those. The bottom, the second part of the slide shows $14 million. The net amount of that is $11 million. For my purposes, I'm just going to call it $11 million today. But I will say that the care center, I know it was mentioned earlier that some of their operating costs haven't been, they've managed the costs well. And part of that is due to testing and a couple of other factors. So you see a reduction with the care center. DuPage didn't spend their entire 16.5 appropriation, so that comes back to us. And on the facilities side, we originally, working with Tim, we had put together let's call it a bucket for where we had operating expenses countywide that were COVID related. And really at this point, I'm like, hey, we need to allocate those. Now, the bottom part of the list is our countywide COVID expenses. So the time has come to revisit that. The list that I have, I don't know if any of you looked at the list beforehand, but I have a very sloppy slide that I apologize for. Next slide. My staff hates this slide. But in the interest of sticking to the schedule, I'm going to walk through these items one by one. And again, we'll take the questions at the end. The first item that's on this list is really just a cleanup item. This was an item that you already approved, but it's just simply a matter of updating the budget for. So that's more of a technical change. Second item is the finance staff. When we originally put together the budget, we were uncertain from a regulations perspective about what was going to be allowed in FY 25 and 26. So we didn't put any staff in FY 25 and 26. Now we are going to have staff time, any administrative staff time. So one thing that we're asking is to increase, now that we've checked on that, Katrina works a lot on the regulations with me. We have verified from outside sources the admin costs are going to be allowed, and actually program costs on the salary side are going to be allowed. We do want to utilize those dollars because those are going to be legitimate expenses. And the same is really true for the community services staff. We have a number of staff in community services that are working, housing navigators and outreach. Those we didn't put into the budget in 24 and 25. This revised number would account for those. So those two items are clearly, well, now are clear to us that they're eligible. So we're requesting you consider changes to that. In addition, we took the same approach with IT cybersecurity. We have eligible expenses. We've been working with Wendy on this and her team and Anthony to come up with these expenses that would be eligible. So we have an estimate of $1.2 million. Again, these are contracts that would have to be obligated at the end of 2024 and paid in 2025 and 26. Those weren't originally a part of what you considered. We have a nominal expense at the Sheriff's Department this year that I've included in the list. It wasn't in the original budget, but it's a clear COVID expense. I have two items for the Larpa program that are for two different fire districts. These are both projects that had eligible LOIs, so clearly eligible projects. One is for Oak Terrace, that's $114,000, and the other is $320,000. There's a memo attached with the Woodridge, the Lyle Woodridge project for your reference.
What, Jim, could we hang out? She asked that we hold the questions till the end. If unless Mary Catherine, you want to take that, but I know she asked because sometimes when they do the presentation, your questions answered, but okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Townships. We're going to talk at the ends of this presentation, the next few slides, about townships. Currently, what was submitted through the portal is originally you appropriated $3 million. The total request that came into us was $4.8 million. We have a couple projects that we can talk about with eligibility. So I'm going to save that for later in the presentation. Sanitary districts, there's been a request for $2 million for sanitary districts. This item is on the agenda. We queued it up. Project as we envision it is similar to our LARPA project. We actually, I think, amended the LARPA program to include this. It would be for eligible capital projects. Virtually all their projects are eligible, but divided amongst the 5 districts, we prorated it based on their DuPage County population, and we minimize any risk that we have for the county by making it reimbursement based. 2 projects at the community services departments. One is that we're asking for $400,000 for. These are projects that have increased cost, similar to some of the items that were discussed earlier this morning. One is at the Family Center, and another is at the actually in the 421 building here on the 3rd floor, as doing build out to handle additional staff that are coming in. Care Center Capital, I believe, was approved this morning, so I don't need to talk about that. There's a facilities capital project. If you have questions, I'm going to ask Tim Harbaugh at the end to take any questions that you have about that project. And then Choose DuPage. We probably should recap when we get to the end about what approach, what's the consensus approach on the Choose DuPage project. Next slide. So just a quick list for your reference that shows the breakdown of the sanitary districts and where they fall by county board district. Next slide. So this slide is what I call the before and after slide. Really, it's summarized to the right. The original budget, the budget that we put together for you at the end of June was $152 million. The incremental cost of these new items is $11 million. So that would bring you to a revised number of $163 million. That leaves in unallocated at this point, $16 million. So the question is, if we do everything that's on this list today, what do we have left? And the answer is 16. Just a reminder that out of that 16, you have 10 that call the standard allowance amount that can be spent on any purpose. But the total number would be 16. Next slide. We finished with Park and Fire almost, and at the beginning of this month, we got back the township applications. Over $4.8 million in requests. There were a large number of them. We had 57 applications. 6 were from township road districts, which was allowed in part of the program, and a majority, as you can see on the next slide. Next slide. Were capital requests. The bar chart on the right is really just intended to show you that there's one project that's way bigger than all the rest. There's one project that's $1 million. So in general, it's a lot of small projects, but there are a few really big projects. Next slide. This slide, I'm just gonna have you look at for a second. This is the distribution that we had. Wayne had about $1.6 million worth of requests with 16 items. Naperville had only 162. So there was a fairly big difference in what was submitted into the portal. Are we good? I see some in the back still looking. Okay, ready for the next one? Okay. When we did Park and Fire, the applications were pretty much complete, what we got. We spent time following up with them, but in general, we were able to resolve a lot of our issues. They were what, from an accounting perspective, I would call relatively clean. When we did Townships, we had some little bit of a different issue, which is we think for the most part, with the exception of 2 projects, that the projects that we received out of 4.8 are eligible. But a lot of them are incomplete or going to require a lot more follow-up on our part. That's in part because we're going to need estimates for construction that they weren't included in their submissions. So we'll need pro formas and POs to back up what the requests are from an outside source. That's one thing that's going to take us a little bit of time. Because of that, what we put before you today on the board agenda were a few changes to the intergovernmental agreements. One of the things the intergovernmental agreement requires is before we send out the money that finance has to improve the backup documentation, because there is going to be some work with that. And the second thing that we put in was that basically the townships have until November 15th to get back to us with the information that we need. And if they don't get back to us by that time, we want to take the money back. We don't want to leave it there forever. This is, we have a limited amount of time to spend all of the money. And so we want to make sure that we can reuse this money if we can't get it out the door by November. I think we've worked closely with these staffs, and I think in most cases that's not going to be an issue. But to protect the county, we put this language in the intergovernmental agreements. Second issue was we really had 2 projects that we thought were a bit problematic from an eligibility perspective. We've reviewed these projects with our Arpa senior team, and the first project is a community center project in Lisle for $1 million. The second project is an outdoor safety project in Wayne for $560,000. These 2 projects, the Lisle project is a project that doesn't have the funding secured. So they think that they can get funding through the budget process in 24 and in the next year or 2. But as of right now, we would be putting down $1 million for a project that's not fully funded. So that project, we had a similar project, Itasca, with on the first round, that was a project that we didn't recommend for funding. And then the second item is a project that's proposed by Wayne. They have suggested that they have proposed that this is a project for that enables them to hold all of their activities outside. But to us, this project looks a bit more like a outdoor recreation project. It's a parks improvement project is what our concern was. And actually one of the backup documents I was looking at last night, it actually says the Wayne Township Recreation Project. So I put this out there. I want to talk at the end of the presentation about these, but one option that we would recommend that the board consider is, not including one or both of these projects. Obviously, that gets you a fair amount closer to your original amount that you approved. Next slide. Okay, so again, what I'm hoping we can get some, well, first I'm gonna take some questions, and I want to leave it on this last slide as I take your questions, because this last slide is the laundry list of the things that we're requesting today. And so, some of these things are going to be on the board agenda. Others of them, the board agenda is focused in on FY22. Where do we need to amend the 22 budget? But I'm looking at more of the multi-year, all years look. That's what you see on the placement. What's going to go in the budget, what's not. And in addition to these large number of projects that are out there, I know there was some discussion about the Choose DuPage initiative too, whether or not we want to do that 1 year or 3 years. So without any further ado, maybe I could take some questions.
We're going to we're going to have like 3 minutes of questions till 9:30, and then I think we're going to discuss the rest in our special call because we have more on our agenda. What was that? Well, but we have our special call meeting this afternoon that we can do that. I just don't want to run late and then have our special call go late or anything like that, but we can take a couple questions. Member Zay and Member Ozag.
Yeah, again, this Oak Brook Terrace and Lyle Woodridge Fire Protection District, we've seen nothing on this. We haven't got any information on it. You're asking us to approve it? I mean, what are the projects? We don't have anything besides a slide on it and what we got yesterday.
Yeah, these are projects that were initially part of our list. They're eligible. One of them was not included. Lyle Woodridge. Hold on, give me just a second.
Is it part of the initial request or is it separate?
Yes. So two different scenarios. Lyle Woodridge was they submitted an LOI to us, and but because of issues issues on their end, they didn't actually submit into the portal. So this is an exception, I guess, because it wasn't in the portal, so we didn't review it. But the staff at Lyle, staff there has asked that we bring this back to board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Ozag.
To clarify, you said that the park district stayed within the amount that we had allocated. Park districts.
The park districts, no, I think the park districts did a better job of submitting backup to us.
Okay.
In terms of following the rules and having all of their documentation together.
And
So
how much over were they from what we allocated?
close
Off
to
the
$1
top of your
million.
head.
Yeah. We raised it, yeah,
To 2.
about $1 million. Yeah,
Okay, so they were about 200 over from what we had, the second allocation. Okay. I really think that we should stay within our original allocation for the townships. And especially with these two projects, with your having some questions about their absolute eligibility. That's my position. Thank you.
Okay. Member Pachowski, go ahead, please.
In your presentation, you said that the townships were seeking additional funding, which were consistent with fire and parks. That means that they got everything that they had requested. Is that what you mean by consistent with fire and parks?
No. What I mean is, the townships. Hold on a second. Yeah, consistent with fire and park, I mean, every project that was requested that we would fund. That's basically what we did with fire and park. We did all of them. But these two, I did pull out these two because we think that staff does not recommend these from an eligibility perspective.
All right.
But there's a gray area with them. And so we wanted to bring it back to you. I know at some of the prior meetings, there's discussion about working closely with the townships and supporting the townships and partnering with them. And so from that perspective, we wanted to fully disclose these items to you and get your response with it.
And the townships know that they have till November 15th to respond on those two projects then, correct?
They have not seen the IGAs yet,
Okay.
and the IGAs are part of what's is on the agenda for today.
So your option one, which was 4.8, is now, it'll be $1 million less than that. Is that what, is option A going to be changed at all from what we're discussing right now? Your option
Yes,
one is 4.8 and option two is 3.3. Is option one now something other than 4.8?
option one is everything. That's what's on the agenda for today. And option two would be something that you would have to do on the floor today if you didn't want to fund the Lyle and Wayne projects.
All right, well, I think the townships should be just the same as everybody else. We've done all of our projects and it's been HVAC, new projects and remodeling. And as long as they're ARPA eligible, I think we ought to give them serious consideration. So thank you.
Member Krajewski, and we do have to go through these. We have to do this before we go on our agenda. So Member Krajewski, go ahead,
Yeah,
please. And then Member
yeah,
Desart.
so I think the park districts came in, we said $1 million, we raised it to 2, they came in a little over 2, like 2.2. So we said we'd do the extra every we got their project.
Yeah.
The fire protection was the same way. We put, I think, $3 million. It came a little bit over. It's gonna be more over now if we approve these two. I'm fine with those two. But we funded all the projects. For the townships, I would say, I mean, if we go to 3.3, that's what I think your option is. We fund everything, all the township requested, 54 projects. And maybe these two, I mean, we still can do ARPA for the next, 3 years. We pull these two off because there's staff considerations, but also we sound like we need more information from them anyway. So I'm fine with, I think Member Ozak said, just funding all the townships except for those two. And we just push them off, discuss them later, ask them for more information. Maybe the outdoor senior center is social distancing, et cetera. Maybe it qualifies. We don't know. The other one, you raise some issues, but just push them off. I wouldn't support those today. The 1.8 set aside, but we need a lot more information. They got to November 15th, but I'm fine with everything else on the township. I'm fine with everything else on that whole list.
Yes.
So that's
Okay.
on there.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, Member Desart.
Yeah, and I think we should keep the questions coming because we're voting on many of these.
Yes, we
before
are.
the special
We are.
Call meeting. My question is, you answered the one about the township projects. Does the remaining contingency reserve funds of $16 million include everything we're voting on today? Once we vote on these items today, will we still have 16 million
Yes.
left over after today's vote?
Correct.
Okay, one ARPA item on today's agenda is the choose to page $750,000. We've already discussed that, but there's another one for choose to page for $250,000. What is that second request?
Oh, that's more of like a technical issue. Just to remind you, the 750 is the all years, and that's going to change the
Gotcha.
whole
Okay.
budget.
Thank
I always have to update the 22 budget, and so the 22 amount is just 1/3 of that. We think that that money will spend in FY 22, so that's just the appropriation that changes the current budget.
Okay, thank you. I also like to just verbalize that I'm with Member Ozak, that I think that we capped it at a certain amount and we should stick with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Desart. Any other questions? Okay, so for clarification, is a consensus of this committee to go through with all of these projects, and then we're going to go with option 2 for the townships, minusing out Lyle and Wayne? Okay, great. Thank you. Member Kajewski? Yeah.
There's that additional 5.6 million that's interest income. It's not in your 16, but, and that can be used for anything, not just ARPA.
Hooray.
Right. So, okay, but just saying, just let the board know we do.
Right.
And so we can do another project, Jim. We could build something else.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And then, as I said, we are, with leave of the body, we will be pulling the clerk's presentation, and they will present on September 13th. And with that, we move on to public comment. So I would like to welcome our, we have 2 people wishing to make public comment today. We have Randy Ramey from Wayne Township. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I came here today to thank you on behalf of the townships. If you're unaware of who I am the Wayne Township Supervisor. I am president of the Township Officials of DuPage County. I'm also the vice president of Metropolitan Township Association. So I got a lot of township in my background here. Again, thanking you for allowing the townships to be a part of the ARPA funding. Obviously, we weren't considered to begin with, but through you allowed us to be a part of that. I know we asked for and were granted the $3 million to work with, but I believe with the original commitment by the board that if anything went over, you would consider it and more than likely support it. And so again, I appreciate that thought. Not knowing Wayne Township specifically was asking for the most, and one of our projects was under discussion. We did find that out last week in a meeting on food pantries. We subsequently have responded to that. I hope Mary got the email last Friday in a response to that consideration. It is not a park project. It is an outdoor senior project because we need to get them outside and not in close proximity in our building. And we have many programs set up for them to use that area outside. Plus, we also have a ways department, which is the Wayne Winfield Area Youth and Family Services, where we have a summer camp for at-risk children, upwards of 75 to 100 kids that come every year for that. So in your future consideration, I guess at the 1 o'clock meeting, perhaps there'll be more information offered then. In our meeting last week, it was discussed and informed to us that not townships, food pantries received $2.4 million from the county, and it looked like they suggested the top 10 food pantries received money. None of the townships received that money. So in our discussions, we have spoke that perhaps the township food pantries can get a direct funding for our purchases of food. If you're unaware, the Northern Illinois Food Bank is short food. Food that's being donated is already rotten by the time it gets to us. Food even that they purchase by the time it gets to us is not good to distribute to our clients. So a direct funding of our purchasing would be helpful. We have talked about it amongst ourselves, and if we needed to put together a co-op to get great pricing, and we know and we can work with the Northern Illinois Food Bank for the pricing that they get. So I think there's a better way we can get the food fresher and get it out to our clients quicker. So hopefully there will be consideration that in the future. So I appreciate again your time. Thank you for considering the townships and look forward to a further discussion, not only for Wayne Township, for Lyle Township. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we have, let's see here, Matt Larson with the Wheaton Sanitary District. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Yes, my name is Matt Larson. I'm the Executive Director of the Wheaton Sanitary District. Want to thank you for your consideration of Resolution FIR 0341-22. That's the $2 million allocation of ARPA funds for the DuPage County area sanitary districts, which there are 5: Downers Grove Sanitary District, Flag Creek Water Reclamation District, Fox Metro Water Reclamation District, Salt Creek Sanitary District, and the Wheaton Sanitary District. This ARPA funding will directly benefit the roughly 250,000 or 250,000 people that we directly serve in these 5 sanitary districts. And it will indirectly benefit almost all the residents of DuPage County through immediate water quality improvements. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, with that, I have no chairwoman marks this morning. We move on to the approval of minutes. Can I have a motion on Finance Committee meeting minutes from August 9th? We had a motion by member Zay, a second by member Salmon. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. We move on to item 7, budget transfers. Can I have a motion on FIR 033722, budget transfers, August 23rd, 2022, from various companies and accounting units? I had a motion by, who made that? Member Zay, second by member Salmon. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to procurement requisitions. Member Kuczewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on 2022-70, a recommendation for the approval of a contract with Dubose for the purchase of our mail machine.
Motion by member Kuczewski, second by member Tornatore. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Member Kuczewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIP 0245-22, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order between the county, DuPage, and Rockview Scope Connolly LLC to provide consulting services not to exceed 150,000.
Motion by member Kuczewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor? The motion carries. We move on to item B, animal services. Member Kuczewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on ASP 0233-22, recommendation for approval of a contract with Coveted North America LLC, purchase of veterinary pharmaceuticals, medical supplies.
Motion by member Kuczewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Kuczewski. We move on
Thank you, Madam Chair.
to C, economic development. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on change order amendment to purchase order 4932-1 serve issued to Parents Alliance Employment Project for Youth Training Services, increases the encumbrance by 56,000 for a total of 502,160.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on change order amendment to purchase order 4931-1 serve issued to Parents Alliance Employment Project for Youth Training Services, increasing the encumbrance by 24,000 for a new total of 204,484.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Selman. We move on to ETSB, and we were calling on Vice Chair member Eckhoff.
I'm not sure I'm the vice chair, but
Oh,
I'm standing in for member Schwarzy. His
Okay.
father died and he's in California right now and hopes to be with us for county board on Zoom. I would move approval of ETSR 57-22, resolution approving the county board execution of an intergovernmental agreement on behalf of the University Telephone System Board to provide replacement radios for end of life and of support radios on the DuPage emergency dispatch interoperable radio system to its members.
okay, we have a motion by member Eckhoff. Is there a second? Oh, second by member Selman. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Eckhoff. We move on to item E, Health and Human Services. Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on HHSP 23422, recommendation for approval of a contract to Lakeshore Dairy for fluid dairy for the Care Center residents, cafeteria and cafes. Basically the campus, September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023, not to exceed 116,000.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move to discharge the committee on this next item, E2 HHSP 250-22.
I have a motion to discharge committee by member Renahan and a second by member DeCiani. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Member Renahan.
I move approval of HHSP 250-22 awarding resolution issued to Haggerty Ford to finish and deliver 2021 Ford Ranger for the weatherization program, $44,759.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of HHSR 331-22, resolution recommendation for approval of a renewal of an IGA with the County of DuPage and the Veterans Assistance Commission of DuPage County through December 31st, 2022.
Have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. We move on to Judicial Public Safety. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of item F1, change order JPSP 361A-21, amendment to resolution JPSP 36121, issued to Sentinel Offender Services LLC due to an increase in probation and pretrial cases to increase the contract in amount of $100,000.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of change order JPSP 0068A-21, recommendation for approval and amendment to resolution JPSP 6821 for change order, amending the purchase order to Trinity Services Group to provide inmate and officer meals for the jail. This is from May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 22, increasing by $34,411.27.
Okay, I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of JPSP 23522, contract purchase order to HOV Services for offsite document scanning services for the circuit court clerk in the amount of $273,884.10. ARPA item.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
I move approval of JPSP 23622, contract purchase order to Agilent Technologies for purchase of an Agilent insert extractor INMS for the crime lab, not to exceed $111,044.72. Sheriff's Office.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those, any opposed or all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Renahan.
And I move approval of JPSP 23722, recommendation for approval of a contract purchase order to Kruger International for audience seating for the courtrooms. This is for the 18th Judicial Circuit Court in the amount of $111,746.40.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Renahan. We move on to legislative and we have member Dessert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of LEGP 0228-22, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to Rauchi and Sullivan Strategies LLC to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the Illinois General Assembly and State Executive Branch. This contract covers the period of September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023 for county board for a contract total amount not to exceed $50,000. These are our lobbyists, Dave Sullivan and Mark Bullis.
I have a motion by member Dessert, a second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Dessert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve LEG-P-0229-22, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to Roger C. Marquardt and Company, Inc. to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the Illinois General Assembly and State Executive Branch. This contract covers the period of September 15th, 2022 through September 14th, 2023 for county board for a contract total not to exceed $90,000. This is our lobbyist, Chip Hume.
I have a motion by member Dessert, a second by member Pachowski. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Dessert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve LEG-P-0230-22, a recommendation for the approval of a county contract to BGR Government Affairs LLC to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the U.S. Congress and the Federal Executive Branch for DuPage County's Division of Transportation, Stormwater Management, and all other county departments and agencies. This contract covers the period of September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023 for county board for a contract total not to exceed $80,000. This is our lobbyist, Bill Viney.
Great. I have a motion by member Dessert, a second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Dessert. We move on to Public Works. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 024122, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Fox Valley Fire and Safety for preventative maintenance, testing, and repair of the non-Edwards system technology fire alarm and life safety systems for county facilities for the period August 28th, 2022 through August 27, 2023, for a total contract amount not to exceed $158,945 per lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia, and I have member Krajewski.
Just real quick, I know we break out the cost to Department of Transportation, Public Works and Animal Services, but then the rest is just facilities. Is there a reason we don't? Is there a reason some other of the buildings aren't, does that include like the health department and the care center? I mean, aren't some of those, should we be allocating to other facilities that are in?
So everybody who is like the health department, they have their own contract doing that. Care center, remember, it's half Winfield, half Wheaton, so that might make some differences there. And all the other ones in 421, it's covered by facilities, but then it's allocated for the expenses for the enterprise funds.
So the public works, is the public works then off-site then? Is that the?
Public works is offsite because we have the various buildings out there.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, member Krajewski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 024222, ratification of an emergency procurement to Fleece Oil Company to provide non-highway number 2 red dyed diesel fuel for a facilities management power plant generator for a total contract amount not to exceed $31,261.05. This was an emergency procurement based upon being necessary to minimize or prevent serious disruption in services. And I'll also add damage of our equipment.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of PWP 024022, agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and Fairgram Engineering and Environmental for an on-call professional engineering services for energy and demand response for multiple DuPage County facilities for public works and facilities management for the period August 23, 2022 to November 30th, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $90,000, professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process.
Have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Ozog.
Thank you.
We move on to technology. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on change order TEP 0091A-22, an amendment to resolution TEP 9122 issued to SHI International. This is for customer service support for our Zendesk system and for a new total of $53,978.98.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on TEP 243-22, a recommendation for a contract purchase order to Infor to support our ERP software system. Contract goes from November 13th, 22 through November 12th of 23 for a total of $215,562.98, and this is sole source.
Have a motion by member Selman, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
Thank you. Move on TEP 244-22, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Gartner for subscriptions for our leadership and IT team. This covers October 1st, 22 through September 30th of 23 for a total of $88,322, and this is sole source.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
I move on TEP 246-22, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to CDWG to support our Veritas Net Backup software. Contract goes from September 24th, 22 through September 23 of 23. It was bought via the Governmental Joint Purchasing Act, $46,038.69.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
I move on TEP 247-22, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to AT&T Mobility for our AirWatch mobile device management system, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, a total of $34,860. And this is exempt from competitive bids.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Rutledge, and member, could you just go ahead, please?
Yeah, no, thank you. I haven't seen many of these in a while, but this one already, it's a license agreement, but it's for July 1st. So like, I guess it's, we need to have the license maintenance. And is our invoice late, or did it send it to us late, or? Because usually you got to renew your annual maintenance licensing
Anthony,
before
kinda
the
got
start.
the
Anthony's here. Thank you, Anthony.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So no, it's not late. So for this particular service, I'm actually drawing a blank, and I'm gonna ask Wendy to help me with
Well,
this.
you can just get back to late, but it started already July 1st.
That's correct. It did start. It's a subscription service, so it's not late, mostly because AT&T took forever to get us the quote. So we didn't even receive the quote
what I was
until
asking.
about
Did they
2.5
send us
weeks
the-
ago. So they haven't been able to bill us yet.
So they haven't billed us, so we
No.
haven't been, okay.
Correct.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman?
Right, thank you. I move on TEP 248-22, a recommendation for a contract purchase order to Care Company. This is management of our county GPS system. Good try. September 1st, 22 through August 31st of 23. Total is 38.5, and this is sole source.
I have a motion by member Selman. Was that a second by member Zay? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Lastly, I move on TEP 249-22, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to PSR Incorporated to support our IBM Business Class Server and Enterprise, September 11th, 22 through September 10th, 23, total 48,304, and this one's sole source as well.
Motion by member Selman, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Salmon. We move on to transportation. Member Potowski. Good morning, Madam Chair. I would move to approve DTR 03068-22 amendment to a resolution to authorize the Division of Transportation to purchase FY 23 and FY 2024 recommended vehicle replacement purchase orders, broadening the scope of vehicles and cooperatives. Motion by member Potowski, second by member Garcia. Oh, member Desart, you guys sound the same. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Member Potowski. Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve DTR 0338B-20 amendment to a resolution issued to Schroeder Asphalt Services to the Lisle Township 2020 Road Maintenance Program to decrease the funding amount of $2,697.38 and close, resulting in a county cost of $800. Motion by member Potowski. We had a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Member Potowski. Move to approve DTR 0400A-20 amendment to a resolution issued to Brothers Asphalt for the 2020 Downers Grove Township Road Maintenance Program to decrease the funding in the amount of $1,120.08 and close, resulting in a final county cost of $782,260.43. Motion by member Potowski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Member Potowski. Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve DTR 09538-18 amendment to a resolution issued to the City of Darien for mowing of grass and vegetation growing along the roads and rights of way under jurisdiction of the County of DuPage, decrease the funding in the amount of $30 and close, resulting in a final cost of $123,150. Motion by member Potowski, second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Member Potowski. Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve DTR 0522A-21 amendment to a resolution of a local public agency agreement between the County of DuPage and the Illinois Department of Transportation for improvements along 87th Street and accounting adjustment. I have a motion by member Potowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. A member Potowski. Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve DTP 0238-22 recommendation of approval contract to LRS Holdings LLC DBA Lakeshore Recycling Systems LLC for solid waste disposal services as needed for the Department of Transportation for a contract not to exceed $45,000. Motion by member Potowski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Member Potowski. Thank you, Madam Chair. And lastly, move to approve DTP 0239-22 Recommendation for approval of contract issued to Santa Cruz Associates Limited DDA Santa Cruz Land Acquisition for professional right-of-way negotiation services as needed for contract amount of $100,000.
Motion by member Wachowski, second by member Ozog. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Wachowski. We move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine A, B, and C, all acceptance appropriation resolutions.
I have a motion to combine items A, B, and C by member Wachowski or member Krajewski, a second by member Salmon. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Wachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Krajewski. FIR 0320-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of violent crime victims assistance program, $18,996, acceptance appropriation of the Illinois Department of Human Services Supportive Housing Program grant of $311,347. And the last is acceptance appropriation resolution for the of the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program for $487,184.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0330-22, resolution for recommendation for approval of an extension of the Emergency Solutions Grant COVID-19 response.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And move on FIR 0332-22, resolution authorizing to transfer $44,266 in budget to facilities management for the fiscal year 2022.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, did we, I see that this is to increase housekeeper salaries. And I'm wondering, as we have done with many other departments, have we done a compensation or a salary study to find out how we're paying our housekeepers? Because I have heard comment from one person that some of our housekeepers aren't even making minimum wage, which I think is horrible. So I just want to make sure that we're compensating.
And this study right here, done in conjunction with HR and staff, it incorporates the upcoming increases in minimum wage, increases the market analysis for that, and this is that adjustment to bring these very valuable employees up to the market what they deserve.
All right, thank you, Nick.
Yeah, it was a great effort by facilities and our HR department to work to get those where they needed to be. Yep, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0333-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program grant, $349,639.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member DeCiani. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0334-22, resolution for additional appropriation for the 2011 Drainage Bond Debt Service Company or Debt Service Fund, $3,598, and also authorize the transfer funds in the 2011 Drainage Debt Bond Debt Service Fund for $252,087.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Zay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0335-22, resolution delegating permit-related fee payment approval to the DuPage County's Chief Financial Officer.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Salmon. Member Renahan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we can get a little staff explanation here. I mean, I understand 15,000, I mean, but there's no limit in terms of what the CFO could then sign off on. Can we get a little explanation?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the purpose for bringing this forward is expediency. So what we found is in a couple of recent DOT projects, we've been working outside our public rights of way. And we're finding that permits associated with those contracts require payment in advance of the project beginning. And so we have a large one coming up in West Chicago. It is a large fee. It is the timing to begin, the project has been awarded and ready to go. It's just the permit has been languishing. And at this point, we don't know the exact fees. We have estimated fees. And so the thought was, if we can get the CFO to sign off on these fees, from an expediency standpoint to allow us to advance projects instead of other ways, which is including it in the contract and having a consultant pay it, and then we reimburse the consultant or a contractor. And then the other option is obviously bring it to committee and board, but that's going to take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get it through the process.
So what kind of money are we talking about in terms of?
So in my case, it's about $150,000 building and zoning fee.
So like a fee can be $150,000.
Yeah. Not on a highway project,
Right.
but a building and zoning and a vertical.
And it can't
project.
wait to, I mean, it can't even discharge committee and come through. It seems like that's a large amount for
Well,
an employee to be responsible for
right.
signing off on.
So it would be informational. The fee has to be paid. It would come through. So, maybe there is an option to bring something through to let the CFO proceed and get these checks issued. But also bring it through committee structure, the parent committee for informational item. The item will be on payment of claims, so it will be in the board packet eventually. So we're just looking for ways, at least for my experience recently in projects outside the right of way, that this has kind of become unexpected in terms of the time frame. So we have a project ready to go, and it's several weeks before the next board meets. But it's also, and as any project goes, if they're progressive payments, or if the municipality is looking to third parties to do reviews on their behalf, and then provide those payments that might exceed the authority of the department head.
Thank you, Member Renahan. I have Member Zay and then Member Ozag and then Member Chowski. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris, these are approved projects, right?
Yeah.
So they've already gone through committee, they've been approved. This is just an expediency. And that when you do this, you'll inform the committee chair that you're going to the CFO for this approval.
Yeah, there'll be a formal process internally.
Right.
And again, we can bring that forward as informational at the.
Now it comes
committees.
informational back to committee, so we know that's been paid.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Zay. Member Ozag?
Thank you. You just answered my question, but you'll be sure to include these as information items.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chowski?
We discussed this, Chris and I thought it would be more open and transparent to throw everything out. I think we're being kind of proactive. It's going to be paid. We're just letting everyone know what it is. And I think it was smart to do it because it's expediency. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Chris. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0336-22, resolution for additional appropriation for the ARPA fund for the water connection assistance programs, $1 million ARPA items.
Motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0338-22, resolution for additional appropriation of our ARPA fund for the local American Rescue Plan Act for the sanitary districts, $2 million.
Have a motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0341-22, which is the resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement with the sanitary districts for the use of the ARPA funds of $2 million.
Motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Eckhoff. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on our discussion earlier today and the going forward with the option of not including two of those township projects, I'll have an amend, but going forward with the rest of them, I will have a move to amend FIR 0339-22, additional appropriation of ARPA funds by striking and replacing the $4,809,676 with $3,249,676.
I have a motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Desart. Member Zay, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go along with this, as long as it was discussed that Lyle and Wayne both have a chance to come back and present those projects that meet our ARPA standards. So I'll go along with that, because I think we all said that they would have the opportunity to bring that forward at another date.
Agreed. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a motion to amend on the floor by Member Krajewski, second by Member Garcia, or Desart, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Now we go on to the main resolution. Go ahead, Member Krajewski.
Okay, well, I think we just approved that.
Yeah.
Amended, so I'll move to, I guess, approve that 3.2 million.
As amended. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Member
you.
Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now I move on FIR 0340-22, which again, To amend that resolution to approving the intergovernmental agreement with the DuPage County Townships by striking and replacing the $4,809,676 with $3,249,676 in the resolution and in Exhibit B.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now I move to approve the resolution as amended.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0342-22, resolution for additional appropriation for ARPA fund for the Choose DuPage to participate in the Chicagoland Economic Partnership Initiative, $250,000.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0343-22. It's a resolution approving the use of ARPA funds for a grant agreement with Choose DuPage to participate in the Chicagoland Economic Partnership Initiative in the amount of $750,000.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0344-22, resolution for additional appropriation for the ARPA fund for the local American Rescue Plan Act program for the fire protection districts for $434,149.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And last, I move on FIR 0345-22, which is amendment to the resolution FIR 0239-22 for the approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the DuPage County Fire Protection Districts, which is increasing now the amount of the new program to $3,558,065.
A motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to informational. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items, A, payment of claims, and B, wire transfers.
I have a motion to receive and place on file items A and B. And who is the second by? Member Selman. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. And then we move, thank you, member Krajewski. We move on to old business. Any old business? Any new business? I just want to remind everybody, we do have a special call at 1 o'clock today, so we'll see you after county board. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by member Zay, second by member Garcia. All those in favor? So see you. Thank you, guys.